And we're live, folks, back again. This is your host of Lit Literature, JP, aka The Demon. And it feels like it's been longer than it has, I think. But I'm excited to talk about this episode, which is the Song of Susannah. And I'm here with the usual song. Susannah, you sing. I wonder if it had something to do with the end. I'm here with the usual crew. Specifically, we can start with the digital, ever so digital Capitan.
Yes, and today I'm broadcasting with you guys from a general store in rural Maine. And there's a bunch of suspicious-looking dudes outside. It looks like they kind of are hiding a bunch of guns in their coats. But I'm just going to go about my business, and hopefully it'll all turn out okay.
Yeah. Just fill up with gas next to those two ladies.
Yeah. It's best to ignore them.
That's okay. Funny you mentioned that, Andrew, because I'm here in Maine, sitting in a car, looking into a store.
I should have known you would have been here, Ben.
Hitman obviously got hired. Was it Sayer? Who hired you?
Yeah.
Sayer.
I knew it.
It was Marconi.
I knew that Ben was the employee of the Crimson King the whole time.
Ben was employee of the month.
Got to pay the bills.
He's employee of the month.
Thank you, Hitman.
And then Brett, the director, just here in Illinois.
Oh, rats. You never know. There might be some walk-ins.
I mean, like, which Illinois?
You know,
right?
Yeah.
Which one?
Yeah, the one where Springfield is up north.
Yeah, that one.
Oh, right.
That Illinois. Oh, shit, man.
Oh, that's the real one.
Which one's the real one? I don't know. Anyway, folks, we're excited to talk about this. The way that Wolves of the Kala leaves off, obviously, makes us pretty excited to get into Song of Susannah.
Yep.
Of course, because of the way that Wolves of the Kala, Song of Susannah, and the final Dark Tower were written, they're kind of like one large book.
Right.
And this is kind of like the calm before the storm with a little bit of storm in it.
Yeah.
Is a way that I felt.
And a little thunder at the end.
A little thunder, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's just start before we get into our thoughts on the actual story components. Let's actually talk about our feelings on it real quick.
Okay.
I think it'll be fun. I know we all had a few different thoughts overall, but let's start maybe with the director.
Let's go Andrew, just because I think he's going to be close to the most negative on it.
Yeah. This book was definitely the hardest for me to get through in the whole Dark Tower series. I'm thinking that I might not be the only one who feels that way. The pacing throughout this story felt a little off to me and a little hazy. Especially coming off of a really classic Western story like The Wolves of the Kala, which had a lot of build-up like this story has. Both stories have a ton of build-up in them. But, I don't know, this book felt a little bit more fractured to me. I guess particularly because all of the different characters were in different places and literally different times as well.
Very true.
It felt a lot more fractured, and I felt like I wasn't getting a cohesive enough story to keep me on the edge of my seat the whole time. With Wolves of the Kala, the synchronicity was there, where it was like, okay, there's this upcoming, massive gun battle that's going to take place, and even though we're getting a lot of cool world building and background and lead up, it just felt right to me, whereas this story was just harder to get through for me.
Interesting. Cool. Hitman?
Oh, I didn't feel that way about this book. I mean, I'll admit, when I started this book, I wasn't really looking forward to it. I thought it was going to be more of a filler book.
Yeah?
But it really kept me captivated once I started reading it. And I'm always a fan of the fractured perspective with one character here and one character here, and they're going through different stuff. So
yeah,
I always enjoy that.
Yeah, I agree. I always like jumping from place to place. I think one of the things that I really liked about the movies, The Lord of the Rings, I don't know if it's the same way in the books or not because I haven't read them all the way through.
Oh, we're gonna do that
Yeah.
because that's a shame.
Is that I really love jumping between the perspectives, and I like that in most stories. I think it just gives you a whole new thing to like, have like all these mini cliffhangers kind of in between where you're just like, oh, I want that to continue, but I also want to see this story, so it's like it's like always like not bittersweet, but like sweet.
So, I also I'm trying to remember now my first time through. I remember being thinking, okay, my first time through. This time through, I actually really liked it.
Yeah,
that's weird. Like I felt the pacing was actually good, but I also wasn't bothered by the fractured nature of it. I actually enjoyed it because I liked the fact that Susannah Mia, who was Mia the Demon, and Susannah from 1960s, is now in 1999. And I liked Eddie Dean from 1986 or 88, I forget, 87? For whatever, 1980 something, is in 1977 in dealing with fuckhead Calvin Tower. I mean, excuse me. Whatever his last name is. Yeah. It is Tower.
Yeah.
Yes.
Bastard.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I thought you were apologizing for swearing. I'm like, this is a first.
And then I also kind of liked the fact that they came up with this genius plan. Roland Entity, Jake and Callahan, they're going to do this thing. And then God just kind of like, oh, hell no.
Yeah.
Just flips him. Yeah. And I found it really interesting to be reading like in 1999, somebody who's dealing with that perspective. And then also we get hints of success or failures of our colleagues in 1977, when you're reading that. But I could also understand because I'm thinking back to my first read through, and I remember being less than satisfied with this book. So I don't know what the difference was, but this time through, I find that I liked it, which is why I got done so fast.
Yeah,
actually.
I
don't know.
I can definitely see what Andrew is talking about. It was definitely slower paced, but the slow pace didn't really affect the enjoyability for me. I kind of felt like it was a nice little breath before the next sprint. You know, like we just had a sprint with Wolves of the Kala, and I might feel differently if I actually waited the 6 years or 1 year or 5 years or whatever it took for it to come out.
Yeah.
I don't know, but being able to read it the very next week, I liked it. And the first scene, I think it's the first scene where the switch up happens.
Yeah.
The way that not only is it described, but the way that it's performed in the audiobook just made it seem very cinematic. It's not super often that like I can see just feel like I'm in a movie when I'm reading a book. Usually I have different feelings. But for some reason, that scene just to me felt like I was sitting in the theater watching it. It was really weird.
Anyway, it's interesting perspective. What I do know is that I'm really pumped for us all to get to the final chapter. Before we get to all the weirdness in this book, which we have a lot to talk about, let's kind of like walk it through, I think. I think we were talking about it before, and this is a book that maybe lends itself to walking all the way through. So as the director kicked off, we might as well start with the swap. I did also love that scene with the Mani. The desperation King was writing Eddie was unique to me. And I felt like the anxiety that he was feeling and the frustration that Roland was feeling about it. And I thought it was really interesting to see the Mani do some magic to open that door.
Oh, yeah.
It seems weird, but it just... I also felt like that entire scene was a strange movie for me. Like, it was very visual in my mind. I don't know if that was King or not, but... Well, obviously it was King, because he wrote it. But for some reason, he wrote it very visually. I don't know, though. Then Ka swips him. They swips him good.
Swips him real good.
And it decides to ram Eddie's head right into a damn door frame on the way. But actually before that, though, is it before that we kind of get an inkling that Mia kind of fucked him by betraying him and letting him know? Is that the phone call that Mia has about or does that happen after Eddie hits his head on the door? We don't see where they go yet, right?
It's afterwards when
Okay.
Eddie's talking to King. That's really confirmed.
So we know that Mia betrayed him, but we didn't know. Somehow she knew where they might end up.
Yeah,
but they didn't really
also
know where they-
Susannah figures out. I think that Mia betrayed them, but I'm not sure that's.
She does find out. I just can't remember the order now.
Yeah.
Yeah. At the end,
But-
she definitely confronts Mia about it. She's like, "Why did you try to kill, Eddie and Roland and
Yeah.
everybody else?" So Susannah definitely figures it out at some point.
What do you think about this this Susannah Mia partnership that they've got going on? Because it kind of starts. They end up in New York, 1999, where some legless girl appears, but then has legs, and then demands shoes from this lady on the street. Yeah. Who Stephen King actually does a hilarious thing by giving us a bit of backstory about her.
Yeah, yeah. I liked it. It kind of pulls you out of the the intimate setting of being part of the Ka-Tet, and you get an outsider, like relatively modern day outsider's perspective on it. And I think normally, like, the average person would be absolutely flabbergasted and like pissed off, or just completely irate about being swindled out of your shoes and stuff. But it definitely King definitely does a good job of anticipating reader expectations and having kind of a funny and somewhat charming interaction between Susannah and that random new gal from 1999.
This scene actually kind of touches on maybe a little bit indirectly, but made me think about something that actually bothers me quite a bit when I'm watching films or listening to stories with people. Like, a lot of times I'll talk to people about stories afterward, and they'll be like, "Oh man, he's so stupid that he didn't go help him," or something like that. It's like, dude, you have the advantage of knowing that we're in a story and that this guy's telling the truth. But think about if this actually happened. And to me, it just made me think of that, because he put us in this lady's mind and talking about how she would never believe it if she hadn't seen it herself. And if she told people, she knows people aren't going to believe her. Yeah. It's like she has, I don't know, she's there's no reason for her to believe what she saw, because even though we know what's going on and we know it happened, her as an outsider doesn't know that she's in a story, and she's just looking at it like this unbelievable thing is happening kind of before me. It's if I tell somebody, they're just going to say, "Oh, she must have stepped out from behind a phone booth or something like that," which is exactly how people would react.
Right.
And I always get mad when people in movies are just like, "Oh, why didn't the adults help the kids find the magical portal?" It's because if it was real life, would you go help kids find the magical portal? No. You're an idiot.
I gotta say, it was entertaining. And then Susannah gets to go. Well, Susannah Mia, their partnership was entertaining to me.
Yeah.
And then what was Susannah Mia and occasionally Deda.
Yeah.
That son bitch.
I thought this was actually this triangle of people, this threesome of people, confused me at points, because Mia was recruited by the Crimson King.
Yeah.
But she's inside Susannah's head.
Yep.
But Susannah has a dual personality that's also in her head.
More like a triple now, but
Yeah.
Right, but that's where I got confused at times. Now, I think I'm pretty solid on exactly where it stands, but for a long time, I was kind of thinking that this was a third personality coming out.
Yeah.
But this is actually a separate being that was put into
correct.
her. So, I was really confused about that for a while. I'm like,
that's
dude, is
kinda-
this another personality
They led you
forming,
to
or-
believe in the Wolves of the Calla that there was another personality.
Yeah.
And
That's
then we
the
find
point,
out
yeah.
later that it wasn't.
Oh,
It's just
yeah,
that
right,
She got
right.
invaded by a demon.
That's exactly right. They're kind of playing off us, and we're like, because just imagine if you knew Susannah.
Now, do you think
You're
that
like,
that's
oh, man.
why one of the reasons why the Crimson King might have selected Susannah? Because his interference with her mind would be less noticeable, and they just think it's part of her normal
Well, that
affliction?
and also, Susannah talks about how she might be addicted to the drama of like multiple personalities.
Right.
She wouldn't like oust
ignored
her. She'd kind of like adopt it.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely a lot of characters that are dealing with addiction in this story. Like, a lot. Mia's, like, addicted to being a mother.
Yeah.
Like, addicted. Like, she needs it. She's like, I'll do anything for a hit, man. She's just like, just give me 5 months with them, baby. It's just like, oh, my God.
Like 3 years.
Yeah.
5 years. 3 years. 2 years. 5 months.
Meanwhile, Calvin Tower will do anything to hold on to his freaking precious books. Even when they tell him not to collect mail at the post office, he goes and sets up general delivery service anyway. It's like, dude, you have not been listening.
Didn't you almost die once?
Right.
Didn't you just watch us move your books into another dimension?
Dude, I've got to have my books.
Yeah.
Amazing.
He's like, look at this. I got 3 baggies of that white stuff. It's just pages.
Well, paper is extremely valuable after all.
Put them in the baggie so they don't get wet when it rains.
Yeah. So we kind of go with excuse me. Oh, had a yawn. Been working hard today. So we go from Susannah Mia, but she finds, so they kind of come to a partnership. Yet Mia is a white woman, and her white legs are gradually taking over Susannah's body, and they find a little turtle in the bag, the duffel bag, in the side, right?
Turtles all the way down.
Turtles all the way down.
Yeah, this turtle has some really interesting influence and effects on people from the current world that they're in.
Yeah.
Very similar to the key that Jake used in Drawing of the Three. Or was that Wastelands? I can't remember, because the beginning of Wastelands and the end of Drawing of the Three kind of meant...
I think it was Wastelands.
Jake made his re-entrance in the Wastelands.
Gotcha. The interesting thing is, and King talks about it in his journals, which we'll get to at the end, but writing about this turtle, he used it in It, which was awesome, because he does use it in It, which was fun.
It wasn't in the movie, was it?
Well, we're not...
Or is that just during the second part, mostly?
I can't remember now.
I can't remember
think
either.
It was in both parts, and they may have left it out, but if maybe in the second part, I can't remember now. But it is in the book, regardless. But it's brief anyway. It's like kind of a...
It's a little throwback.
Like just kind of a little
of details.
mention. Yeah. But either way, it was kind of neat to read that. And we have this turtle, and and our Ka-Tet thinks they're on the beam with the turtle on the other side of it.
Yeah.
Right? So that does make sense in a way. But where do you guys think the shit's coming from? The bag. The bag, the turtle, these like special items. It's kind of like divine interference. It feels like that to me, but then I keep looking because I'm thinking about Stephen King's general writing, and I'm like, divine interference is. I mean, you know what I mean? What do they call that? The actual writing term for that.
Deus Ex Machina.
Deus Ex Machina.
That's mostly like more blatant though. That's like when the gods come in and save you from like certain death.
Okay.
You know, I think a little peppering in of some assistance. I don't know if that would be considered that, but it might. I don't know.
What I'm thinking though, and I can't. I honestly, it's been too long, so I'm trying to think about this, and I'm like, I wonder if there's a setup a little bit. Good old Walter's been trying to set him up time and time in advance, and sometimes that has to do with them helping him. But then I'm like, who else would be doing it? I don't know. Just kind of an interesting thought. Well, just wanted to pitch it.
In this book, they introduced Gan, and he is supposed to be like the what is it, Jeff?
Gan? Isn't Gan the turtle?
No,
no.
He's like the one who Andrew Dewey number.
I can't remember. I know Gan, but I can't remember.
The name rings a bell. I can't remember who Gan is.
I thought Gan was the turtle. I
have no idea. No.
Where's goddamn Nanny when you need this?
I know.
I'm not blanking, but he's like the
look it up.
Caretaker of all the beams of creation.
Oh, really?
Something along those lines.
I missed that.
And they only introduced him in this book, and Jake had a little prophecy of him, and later they talked about him a little bit more.
No, Matrin is the turtle.
And I'm thinking like all this stuff is coming from him.
From Gan, possibly?
Gan, yeah.
Some type of assistance from the guy that's in protection of the beams.
Huh.
That would be really interesting.
Yeah.
Because it's not like he's like shoving them in the right way, but even little clues and hints and tokens help him get through spots in the...
I always find it super interesting when there's stories that kind of humanize supernatural like beings, you know? Like the Crimson King feels like if I think of God or whatever people think of, like the Christian God.
Oh, I got it.
Like I don't really imagine him as somebody that I could walk down the street and just be like, "Oh, shit. That's God." I don't feel like that's a possibility. Let's assume that God is real. I don't really see that as like a thing that can happen. It's like something you can only experience outside your body, right?
Yeah.
But like it seems like in this universe, if they're gods, whatever these beings are that seem to have so much power, they're very like tangible, like you can interact with them. Like I feel like you can just go up to the Crimson King and be like, "Dude, what are you doing?" And I find that super interesting when any story takes that kind of like larger than life thing and like makes it lifelike. It's really weird.
Yeah, breathes humanity into divinity.
Yeah.
Find something, Jeff?
I did. Gan is kind of like a spirit of the Dark Tower, but he didn't become that. So it was kind of like a godlike figure who split into multiple universes. His body actually split into multiple. He's kind of like a god, essentially a god. But he has a wife who invented riddling to entertain him.
Riddling?
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
So that could be one of the reasons why it was so important in Gilead.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Here's the literal kind of definition of Gan. Godlike figure who rose from the waters of the Prim, who we kind of learned about a little bit in Song of Susannah, spun the physical universe from his navel and is the spirit of the Dark Tower. Mm-hmm. But others say he rose from the Prim and Midworld emerged from him, breaking apart into many parallel worlds.
I always find it interesting how there's like a lot of mythology that like it's just like, oh, this god, dropped a tear and the oceans were formed. It's like, if we ever create AI, I wonder if they're just gonna be like, oh, this god spilled Coke on thine keyboard and then you were made.
Yeah, dude, it could be. But
if true artificial AI is created by mistake.
Thank you, master. It's just like a guy like sitting in a chair with Cheetos on his chest.
Dude, so let's continue down the story here. So we get through Mia, Susannah. They have many conversations in Susannah's head. What did you guys think about Susannah's new ability to kind of formulate psychic physical space, I guess? She kind of formed her own little zone, was able to radio the boys. Although Jake mentions that since a certain event in the book at the Thinny, they've all gotten stronger in some way or another in some form. Like Jake got super powerful in the touch. Susannah's gotten really powerful with this physical tie-in. Yeah. Eddie, we don't know so much yet.
Eddie has the ability to create talismans.
Oh yeah, duh. That's what they did.
He seems to be getting a super stronger intuition with things too, just like a natural predisposition to know things. He seemed to, in the scene when he eventually meets their maker in this book, he seems to be having like a strong sense of intuition for pretty much most of the things that they do. Even when they're talking with John Crimshaw, I believe was the character's name.
John, the savior.
Yeah.
Badass old man.
Yeah. Eddie keeps referring to like a sense of intuition, like this feels right. I don't know why, but this feels important, or this feels like the right path. So
Interesting.
Yeah, so it might be another vision of the touch, because it seems
Could be.
more than just gut intuition like Roland has.
So something's kind of ramping up.
Oh, I know it is.
Yeah.
Because we're about to read the last book.
Yeah.
Which has got to be on
Something's ramping up
the whole time.
And it kind of feels a little bit like some aspects of Stormlight Archive, where it's like certain powers seem to be returning, you know? Like things are getting stronger. Things are ramping up. It's like, you know, they seem like gone for so long, like where people weren't using Stormlight. It's like kind of similar, you know, like some event is happening that's causing this increase in the powers in them. Or maybe they're just getting stronger at it because they're using it more or getting closer as a Ka-Tet. I don't know.
They said, I can't remember now, but I remember they mentioned that there was a point in time they all came in contact with something, and they all got, except for Roland, they all got
Poor Roland.
better.
It's like, man, I made all you.
No, Roland came out of it with a bum hip, and some arthritis. The rest of them got powers. The rest of them got powers, baby.
He got the short straw.
Speaking of which, let's continue down this path. So these guys get the money to open the door as they're chasing Susannah Mia into New York. Roland and Eddie are like, all right, we're going to 1999. But Ka doesn't allow it. Sends good old little Jake, not Oi, poor Oi is waiting, but little Jake and Callahan, the man, into 1999 and sends Roland and Eddie, who were supposedly going to 1999 to do this gunfight, into 1977, and it sends Eddie with a concussion. And we know there's a trap set from Susannah Mia's set, and it's pretty much how Roland and Eddie's section starts, with guns ablazing.
This was the first part in the book that really got me interested. I was actually really...
Like, I'm used to this old West shit now.
I
need some gunfire.
This wasn't super deep into the book, was it? This is relatively...
it was kind of halfway.
Was it really?
It was
that
after Susannah's first part.
It
was
it went. They did the whole Monty intro, and then right when they both go into the world, it cuts and goes in Susannah's entire section.
Right.
Except for the end with the song. But
Correct.
All the rest of it's Susannah, and then it goes back to Roland and Eddie as first. For the rest. Go ahead, Captain.
This part definitely, it's the most action-packed part in this whole book. And it totally, this is what really rekindled my love of this series, was this scene. Because for the first part of this book, it was just extremely hard for me. I was really getting glossed over from it. But with this part, I was like, oh, shit, like right away, you could tell stuff's going to go down when Jack Andolini and his goons are like already there. And Ben, employee of the month for the Crimson King.
I can just see Andrew watching the movie High Noon, just like, when's the shooting gonna happen? It's in the title at noon. Calm down.
I was really starved for action at this point. So getting this scene was like a surprise, like buffet meal. I'm like, oh my god, this is more than I can handle. But it was pretty incredible. The whole action scene was super awesome. I loved Eddie Dean's particular character, like style of vengeance against these guys, because he's already bested them twice, but in different worlds, and this is kind of the world that really matters. So like, you really want Eddie Dean to win this time, and King definitely does not disappoint.
Yeah, I love the smack talk that Roland and Eddie threw at the guys. It's so funny.
I don't know if you guys felt this, but I absolutely loved how Roland had to hit Eddie to get him out of his own concussion.
Roland the doctor. Concussions are cured by hitting them, and smoking is completely healthy.
Dude, I love
Dr. Roland.
I thought it was hilarious. I mean, he just hits Eddie, and he actually gives Eddie a huge. Unfortunately for Eddie, most of Roland's compliments of Eddie are in Roland's head, which we get, but he doesn't. But Roland is like, "Oh, I'm proud of him," as he pulled his eyes back out of straight up concussed mode to try to start focusing on.
It's like, I knew how hard that must have been.
Yeah.
I love how often I'm pretty sure he brought it up again in this one. Remind me if I'm wrong, but I love how often Roland tends to think of Eddie fighting naked.
Yeah.
He's like, man, that's just like the coolest thing I've ever seen. I know he brought it up in the last book, but he brings it up in this book too, doesn't he? During this scene.
Pretty much every time
every time Eddie's fighing, Roland's just watching him naked. There goes that swinging again.
Once he's seen it, you can't unsee it.
Like, is that a gun?
Does he have a third gun down there? Or is he just getting some battle adrenaline?
Dude, I do like, though, the way that, I feel bad, but, I mean, this scene immediately gets violent. I mean, bystanders get their head shot off instantaneously in the crossfire. But I love this guy, John, that they just picked up, who happened to be an awesome savior. I feel a little bad for the other guy who just got himself knocked out in the end.
The store owner?
Yeah, the store owner. Yeah. And then when I think about the place burning down, I'm like, I hope he was far enough away.
Yeah, no kidding. I'm pretty sure he passed out on the receiving dock. Yeah. So he's probably at least a couple feet away from the building.
I hope so.
If it exploded, he definitely could have been in trouble.
I remember listening to this scene and thinking how, like, morality instincts come into play. Like, I wonder if one of the reasons in the past Roland could be so nonchalant about innocent bystanders is because he knew instinctually his world doesn't have true consequences. But now that he's in a world with, like, where shit sticks, does that change your moral instincts? You know, because obviously there were lots of innocent casualties in that fight.
I would say, though, that I don't think they did for Roland. I think in the end it's the same for him. He seemed to be, I mean, they were both happy they had a few people, and I think if any of the bystanders were close enough for them to grab and take, they would have
save them.
But in the end, number one comes Rose.
Right.
Yeah, and exactly. For that, they
took the store owner with them.
Yeah, he just
even though he was
passed out.
For some reason, all these gunshots are going off. It's like, don't do that, guys. It's like, no, you're gonna die.
Yeah.
You see those guys shooting at us? Your two customers, they're dead.
Yeah.
Like, get with them.
Yeah. The store owner was clearly in complete catalytic shock.
That might have been the best description of the scene I've ever heard.
Whoa, you see those two customers? They're dead.
Guys, don't do that. Hello, come. You stupid?
Doesn't one of them even get, like, their head blown off? Like,
one of the side customers does. Yeah.
He, like, goes to, like, run away or something.
Both of the two women do, who are, like, asking John a question. It kind of seemed like maybe John worked there, but it's later said he doesn't work there. But he was talking to those two women, and the two women immediately get headshotted, and John is quick enough to duck. So Roland immediately is like, "Ally, you're joining our team.
You're drafted. Come on."
Yeah, you're drafted.
Oh, dude, that whole scene was a lot of fun, and then I did love the banter, like you said. Hitman, it was just awesome. Just because the fact that we got to see Andolini die so many times or get beat up,
torn up by monstrosities.
A lot of fun. I mean, so hilarious to revisit this guy that we saw die in that fashion. And then Eddie kept thinking about it with kind of like a grin. It was kind of fun. It was a lot of fun. They do escape thanks to John and his boat. They're pretty sick. And they go to the nice hobbit-ish house that he has up on the hill.
But on the way back to his house, they talk about walk-ins.
Oh, the walk-ins.
The walk-ins.
Yeah.
And he kind of explains that to them and asks if they are walk-ins.
Yeah. Yeah.
And turns out...
It's like, I guess we are.
I guess we are walk-ins.
Yeah.
And that sets the stage for later on with all the other walk-ins
Yeah.
in that area and how they
Well,
found out.
Yeah, it's
about
like if we go
Stephen
to
King.
if we go to another planet, it's like, are you guys aliens? It's like, well, I guess we are.
Yeah.
It's like I never really thought about that. I thought you guys were the strangers.
Yeah.
Pretty
Indeed.
fun.
It's like, this is now America.
Yeah. Merc.
How about Eddie and his crazy pain tolerance?
Yeah.
Freaking calf in the shin, basically,
Yeah.
or something like that.
Plus, he can fight naked.
Yeah. And then and they get over there, and then they're what? Okay, so what is it? They have a good time, and they borrow John's car, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is pretty nice. And they tell John to, get out of here, go on vacation for a little while, because this shit might get weird.
Yeah. People
Yeah.
saw us go over here. They'll find it.
Yeah.
I
So I like that. I like that they looked out for him after the help that they got.
Yeah.
yeah.
This is the guy that he said to him. He's like, if you don't leave, you'll probably never whatever again, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was pretty solid scene. For some reason, it gave me it had the good. You know when you're playing a video game and you get through a really stressful part, and then you have like that moment where you reach like the safe zone and
Yeah.
you're saving and collecting items, and you're just kind of like, I'm just gonna stay here for a little bit for my stress.
yeah.
That's kind of how that scene felt to me.
It had that fade out moment where when it's filmed, it's just gonna fade out to black for a couple seconds.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a nice break.
I needed it there, and there were some fun points in it. Right, Eddie finding out his New York was wrong. Because Stephen King fucked up.
Yeah.
And also talking about baseball and some of this shit. And then finding out also that Stephen King lives in the area.
Yeah.
So I personally think, and I say this knowing that I'm probably wrong, because I know that some of you guys research this stuff and I never researched this stuff, but I think that it was next level genius by Stephen King, and that he purposefully wrote it wrong so that he could write in the explanation 5 books later. And if I'm wrong, don't tell me, because I want to believe that.
Okay.
Actually, if I'm wrong, tell me.
Yeah, I think he does comment.
You're referring
that he
to
just
the
messed
detail
up.
about Co-op City, right?
Yeah.
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 Yeah,
I
just kidding. If
honestly
I'm wrong,
don't know. I think it's kind of just this is just my intuition, is that it's just King cheerfully poking fun at himself for making a previous mistake and then using it to his advantage in the story later. But I could be wrong.
I think that's the more likely explanation.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% positive because it's been a long time, but I remember him commenting something along that fashion.
Okay.
However, I could be thinking of something else. So
Keep the dream alive.
yeah.
Keep saying I do really quick just talking about those walk-ins, because they do pop up once more or twice more throughout the book.
Yeah.
I thought it was really cool that they reference that like the slow mutants are coming through
Yeah. Some of
from
the
from the gunslinger. It's like, oh my god, dude! I'm pretty sure those guys would definitely cause a little bit of a news stir if they got through. And then I think maybe that could explain a little bit of the Vagrant Dead as well, which have popped up in this series, and they're always a gruesome, chilling appearance when they show up. And they're in a lot of other series as well, like The Shining and a lot of other King's work. So I thought that was kind of a cool thing to put the Vagrant Dead back in there.
Dude, I liked it because it kind of synced his universes a little bit as well, which is fun. And actually, those scenes, we didn't talk about a lot about them, but I forgot. When they were going Todash, they saw the dead, the Vagrant Dead. I mean, they were kind of gruesome sons of bitches. So to speak.
Yeah.
But I also like that a lot, and I like anything that connects the universes together because it's fun.
Yeah,
So
the little details here and there. Yeah.
And then when you think about like how much is truly Stephen King that like people don't even think about it. They're like, oh, damn, Stand By Me and The Green Mile and all of these goddamn awesome movies and The Shining and this and just like so many.
Yeah, I was talking to my mom. I was talking about how we were doing some Stephen King books, and she's just like, "Oh, I can't read him. He's too scary." And I'm just like, not always.
No.
Yeah. Yep.
He's got a lot of shit that's like...
He honestly has that reputation because his first books published were Carrie and
Pet Sematary,
Salem's Lot,
I think.
Pet Sematary. Yeah, but like the reality is that he's kind of all over the place, and he even makes a joke about it. I think it was in this book where he's talking about Eddie's like, oh yeah, I think in our world you mostly stick to a genre and you just kind of, if you like this, you do that, and this, and you do that. And he was kind of poking fun at the fact that he himself obviously likes to mix all this stuff together.
Yeah.
So it was a pretty fun little comment. I forget where that was, but I remember it happening.
Yeah.
Anyway. Okay, so we get out of there alive, and we get to go lecture, and Eddie's about to strangle the life out of good old Calvin Tower. It's taking everything that Eddie has in his mind and power and soul to not murder that son of a bitch. And the way that King describes this, I feel the same way.
Yeah.
He kind of makes me feel for Eddie a little bit, even though I feel less so that way in reality than Eddie does. Just the way that you're in Eddie's thoughts when it's going down.
I felt very strongly for Eddie's case. This guy's an idiot.
Yeah. Agreed. I in the parts leading up to their meeting with him, I was kind of a little bit more on Calvin Tower's side, but the moment Calvin Tower pulls up in his car and like there's an explosion across the lake, and he just kind of casually looks at it like, that doesn't concern me, and he walks into the house. I'm like, dude, you have the mafia after you. Like, how does that not concern you, dude?
Oh my God, I have a brand new book I'm about to get. I just saw it like when he walked in and he was saying that to his buddy. What was his buddy's name? Aaron?
Deep No. Aaron Deep No.
Deep No? Aaron Deep No. Head on his shoulders. He just walks in, and I just see like Eddie and Roland sitting in a chair with Aaron, and I just see Eddie like, just about to murder that son of a bitch.
I just imagine this Depno or Deep No guy like sitting there like, finally other people to explain to him what I've been trying to say.
Eddie's got like a fistful of strawberries, and he's just slowly squeezing them as Calvin Tower walks in.
Have another strawberry, Eddie.
Yeah.
It's really hard to be pissed with these great strawberries. It's been so long since I've had fruit. Is literally what was happening.
Yeah.
Amazing. I loved how chill Roland was at that scene. Like, it was so interesting. Like, he almost took a back seat. He let Eddie get his, words out, and he kind of just, like, waited. And then he kind of, like, looked at him, Calvin, he was kind of like, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I felt that Eddie,
so chill.
Roland did it to let Eddie bully him.
Yeah.
And then get him off guard and...
Not bad. I don't know. Whatever it was, it worked. And Roland he's kind of like a secret politician. He has this like instinct that he could just toy with this stuff. He just kind of knows where he'll win and where he won't and where he needs to use other people. But that worked. And it felt real too. I mean, obviously it worked because it's written to work. But it felt like it might not have worked.
Right.
So it was written well.
Yeah.
And I got to say, that guy's an idiot. He probably deserves to die, but he can't die till he saves Callahan. So he's got a few more years at least.
Indeed.
Pretty interesting. Good that Eddie gives him the heads up that they need to be somewhere with a gun at a certain time.
Yeah.
It's also interesting that Eddie gives him all these stock tips to make money.
Yeah.
Microsoft.
Well, I mean, that was a trade, right? Because they're buying the rose for $1.
Well, no, that was just a tip. Like, they already promised that he's going to get money, like, from them later.
True. Well, I thought
that was part of the payment.
I thought it was just more of an extra
tip. I'm not sure.
Oh, yeah. It was, like, to further sweeten the pot, I think, because he was showing reprehension.
Yeah. That might have been right.
But it was part of the payment. It was just additional to what they originally said that they would do.
And then they talk about getting Susannah's financial advisor still alive at the time to start up the Ka-Tet Corporation, which they do obviously need to do because although they purchased it as a Ka-Tet Corporation, they haven't actually incorporated themselves at all.
Yeah.
So they have some work to do. Good thing Deep No was a lawyer, though.
Yeah.
Handy.
That worked out.
Handy. So they get the rose. What do you guys think? Anything else? Any other fun stuff before we move on from the rose to their next mission in 1977?
No.
On the way to the next mission, I got something to say.
Okay. On the next mission.
On the way.
On the way
next
to
mission.
Oh, that's where we're going.
On the way to Stephen King's house.
Go for it.
Yeah. Okay, they're going.
Eddie starts talking about how they're in the past, and they can start investing money and making choices. And then Roland's like, "Why are you talking about money? That has no bearing on this." And then it's like, "We can buy the Samba Corporation,
Yeah.
Right.
and they can bend them to our will."
Yeah.
And Roland is like, "Mine is blown." It's
Yeah.
like, "Oh my
Yeah.
God, this is a huge deal."
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was amazing that he was so linear thinking
Yeah.
that he didn't get that. But that was a great point. Eddie was like, blah, 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 blah. And Roland's like, what?
Yeah.
Why do we care about money? What
Yeah.
the hell? Eddie, I didn't think you were such a fucking greedy bastard.
It was almost like Eddie was like explained it to him, and he was expecting for him to explode and be like, yes, but he didn't get it.
Yeah.
So he's just like, that's the point.
Yeah, that's funny. And actually, a great point. And since they're in 1977,
Yeah.
They have a lot of time.
and we got a little hint in Susannah Mia's story.
Actually, it was Jake and Callahan's.
Oh, it was
story.
Jake Callahan's. They saw the
They're talking
the,
to
Ka-Tet Corp building.
the preacher on the street.
The street
He
pastor.
said- yeah.
Yeah.
And he said that it was bought by the Ka-Tet Corporation and some other stuff to do with the group. I can't
Yeah.
remember all of the words. And we got
Very-
that satisfaction that something happened.
How about
Yeah,
that?
that street pastor sure seemed to know a lot.
Yeah.
He did.
Well, it was hilarious because Susannah gave him some psychic info,
Yeah.
and but it was hilarious hearing his story and his mindset before that happened. This is where I park. I'm going to take this ticket. Yardy dardy tar tar. Here we go.
I thought it was really interesting. He heard the voice.
Yeah.
And at first he thought it was God's voice.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, it's divine." And then it's like, "No, it wasn't God. That girl was an angel." And that was like divine intervention. And
What
then
if
like,
Odetta contacted him?
Hey, muffa.
yeah.
It's like, oh, man.
And then it's like,
Hey, muffa. You better tell them
This
honky
honky ass
muffa that shit. That'd be hilarious, dude.
yeah. And then he's like, "Oh, that was an angel, that woman." And then he's like, "That woman was a witch."
Yeah. He
Talking in my
flip flops.
head. That's magic.
Yep.
What was a witch?
Yep.
You better watch out.
He flip
Like,
flops.
geez.
God, that was divine, Brian. Oh
Yeah.
no, she was actually an angel. Oh, she's a witch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Feels like
Mistake.
getting high, where you're just like, everything is connected. And then, like, as you're coming down, you're just like, I'm an idiot.
Oh, awesome. So they make it up to Stephen King's residence. Mm-hmm. 1977, Salem's Lot's out. We know that.
Yeah.
And not much else is out. And
When did this book come out? Do you know?
this was in
Is this after
2000
9/11?
Yeah, it was.
Okay. I was like reading it and I'm like, dude, did he just predict this shit?
Yeah.
I
man.
flipped, dude. I was like, there's no way. This is one of the older or newer books.
It was
has to be.
designed.
Yeah.
I believe it was designed to be implied that Black 13 went down with Twin Towers.
Correct.
Twin Towers.
Yeah. The wording
2004.
specifically in that section was completely unmistakable. I think it was either Jake or Callahan was like, "There's literally no way Black 13 will get picked up." I don't remember the reason why, but he's like, unless there could even be, and the wording was specifically, there could even be a building that falls down on top of it and buries it forever.
I think he said unless
Unless-
the building,
Yeah,
falls on top of it.
Yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
He makes
Yeah.
it implied that it's going to hold there until a certain date.
Yeah.
And it'll be safe until then. However, if we can't pick it up, we know it'll be safe. We just got to pick it up by then. And if a building falls down on it, then screw it. At least it'll be dead.
Yeah.
That's kind of what they implied, which was wild to actually put that in there a little bit.
Yeah.
It's 2004. I mean, it's kind of fresh, you know?
It's a little fresh.
A few years. But I also thought it was kind of an interesting way to tie our reality to the series, which I liked.
Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting. So,
now, did you feel like there was a little bit of implication that the buildings went down because Black 13 was down there, or was that just like a coincidence and it happened to destroy?
So I felt that it wasn't because Black 13 was there, but I don't know how you guys feel. I didn't sense that. I sensed it was more of a, like, they kind of, as characters, as every American, as we all thought, why would that ever happen?
Right.
They're like, unless the building comes down, which
I was thinking it was like maybe some type of planned way of getting rid of it, but then I was just like, man, that'd be really dick of Ka.
I think it was a planned way of getting rid of it.
Yeah.
But I did think what you thought, that Black 13 might have caused
it.
The tower to collapse.
That's interesting.
It certainly made me wonder when I came across that section in the book. I didn't look too far into it, though.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah.
I just kind of passively thought about it. I'm like, I wonder if it happened because it's there, or if it happened in spite of it being
right.
there,
Yeah, which was the chicken and which was the egg, so to speak. Right in this section, Demon, were you about to move on, or?
No, I want you to go.
Okay.
I'm not moving on.
There is a cool section that I wanted to discuss right in this part of the story where, because it sounds like we're basically at the point where Father Callahan and Jake and Oi come into New York. And their entrance into New York was pretty insane. Like, immediately they warp there, and Oi gets almost smoked by a taxi. And Jake flips out. Like, he's still... Jake is, like, full-on in gunslinger mode, and he was ready to blow that dude away. I was like, oh, my God, like, Jake is a badass.
Dude.
Scary.
So, by the way, remember, Oi was supposed to stay.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That didn't happen. Ka don't let that shit happen. Why? Because Oi is probably shimmy. But that's my own opinion.
Oh, my God. All right, well, we can come back to that too. Maybe.
Just an opinion, but maybe not right.
Yeah.
How about that?
Really? We talked about that before.
You briefly did.
Oh, maybe did we talk about it separately? Yeah.
It's new to me.
Dude, however, we will get to that a little bit later. But to what you're saying, that scene was so crazy because Jake was literally losing his cool, and now Jake's like gunslinger Jake.
Yeah.
He's like... He loses his cool, and a lot of people are going to die.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of... And this taxi driver had no idea.
Yeah.
Dude, he was just like... Whoa, he had no idea how close he was.
Yeah.
And Callahan's like, whoa! Jake's been under a lot of stress lately. His only best friend just got killed by... one of the sneeches.
I totally love the part right after that, too, where there was, like, some rich dude in a Lincoln who got out, and he was trying to cause, like, legal problems for everyone in the accident. And then the street preacher came and, like, broke his thumb to get him to leave. Like, dude, that street preacher's probably in a lot of trouble. Like, that dude's probably got connections.
Yeah.
But
actually, that guy was probably smart enough to realize, like, that preacher's probably in the mob. I'm out of here.
Yeah, that was still an amazing scene regardless.
Yeah.
I totally loved that street preacher from that scene. I'm like, dude, this guy's an awesome character.
Oh, dude, super awesome. As a matter of fact, we need to revisit it. It needs to be the start of our next episode. So I want to take a break. I got to refill on drink. We are at an hour. I say we put a cork in it. We refresh. We come back and we start with Jake's situation, the preacher, as we continue to converse, because that's good. But then we got to start also where we left off, which is Roland and Eddie.
Right at Stephen King's.
Yeah.
Arriving to Stephen King's home.
And we also got to talk a little bit about Mia and who the father of her child is.
Exactly.
Yes.
We got a lot to do. So one more, folks, and we will continue this discussion.
Boom.
Cheers. Cheers.
Cheers.
Although we'll be drinking it later.
In a different Illinois, we did drink.
In the fake Illinois.
Thanks again for joining us for this episode of Lit Literature. If you liked us, please check out our social media at Lit Literature 1 at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And don't hesitate to join in on the conversation. We appreciate the conversation, the questions, book recommendations, anything of that sort. Join in right on the social media websites. And don't forget to check us out at our website, litliterature.com, and our upcoming projects, though there aren't many now besides Lit Literature, you can find at lyket.net, Lyket. We do have a Patreon account, but if you truly want to support us, please like and share. Cheers.